What's happening, Boot Junkies? Mike Delgadio here, back with another video on home studio setup for VoiceOver. One of the first things new voice actors want to have done is get a demo so they can start to book work. But demos can cost several hundred, more than $1,000, depending on who and where you have your demo done. Plus, you can incur studio expenses and so forth. So in order to earn the money to pay for your demo, you have to have a demo so you can advertise your wares. So it helps to know how to make a demo. And today, we have the good folks at Audioblocks, which is a royalty-free music warehouse of sorts that has lots of great music that we can use to create our first homemade demo so that we can earn enough money to have a real demo done. So let's go over to the control room and let's make our very first demo. Here we go. Audioblocks has one of the largest stock audio libraries with over 100,000 tracks, loops, music, and sound effects. This month, Audioblocks is also launching a new collection featuring hundreds of new fantasy and sci-fi inspired tracks. These now all come included with the subscription. They're giving away 7 days of Audioblocks so you can try it out and explore this new collection for free. Go to audioblocks.com/future or click the link in the description box below to start downloading and get started. So I thought I'd just take a quick second and just go over some of the features of Audioblocks before we get into making the demo. The first is Audioblocks. It's really cool. It's got a lot of different genres and moods of music. So you can choose like happy alternative rock or epic classical music or, lots of different variations. Then you can add things to your own album. So there's tracks that you like, tracks that you're interested in. I've been keeping track of mine in an area called Demo. So all of the ones that I was going to use in my demo, I just used the album feature. You can see your albums in your profile. Just click on your little avatar there, and you can see the songs that you saved inside your demo. They were all categorized right there. So we're over in my control room part where I do my video editing and so forth. So let's just go through how we would do this. First, let's get our project set up. So we're going to probably need 3 tracks for this. So when in Reaper, we'll just insert a new track. And we're going to call this the vocals track. And then we'll add a music bed track. And maybe we'll add a track for special effects, sound effects, something like that. We may need more, we may need less. It's going to depend on what you're trying to add and how many layers you need to add. So let's just start. We'll start by adding one vocal track in, and we'll see how to turn this into an ad, and we'll look at some of the different processing that we need to do. We start with the ads from my Media Explorer. So we'll start with this this one and this one. Now, these were ones that have slates and everything like that, so I'm going to trim these up so we just get the audio take. We don't need to hear the...
Hi there.
You don't need to hear my slates and stuff. So I know where these are. So I know that that's one take. And I know that that's another take. So let's just take a quick listen.
With a Mitsubishi Electric Zone Comfort solution, you can create multiple shades of comfort for any personality in your...
Okay, so we've got our vocals in there. The first thing I'll do is I'm going to normalize these so that they're nice and loud. They're loud enough. So we right-click on the item processing, normalize items. And all a normalize does is it turns up the track until whatever the peak is, until it's just shy of clipping, until it's 0 dB. And we can see that there's a point right here where that's touching. So we've got that normalized. And we'll do the next item. We'll normalize that one also. So that way the tracks are nice and loud. The next thing we'll do is we're going to drag in one of the music beds, whichever music bed you think goes best with your particular sound. So we'll just drag that in there from the Media Explorer. And now we'll trim these up and we'll see how that matches up underneath. And we'll get it to start the same.
With a Mitsubishi Electric Zone Comfort solution, you can create multiple shades of comfort for any personality.
So the first thing I hear is They actually kind of go. I picked these out because the mood and the tone of the ad, they sort of go together. But if we listen to the music, it is too loud for the vocals. They sort of compete with each other.
With a Mitsubishi Electric Zone Comfort solution, you can create...
So the music's too loud for the vocals. It just doesn't match up. Now, you might be inclined in the beginning to start messing with the levels to make the vocals louder or the music bed quieter.
With a Mitsubishi Electric Zone Comfort solution, you can...
But then during the empty parts, the music is too quiet. So we'll reset those. And the way you would typically do this is with a little bit of sound engineering. Now, we're not going to go into a huge amount of sound engineering during this demo, but one of the common tricks that people use is called sidechain compression. And that is when the vocals are being heard, you want to turn down the music automatically, and you don't want to have to sort of adjust the volume back and forth and automate that all the time. You can actually have the DAW take care of that for you with something called sidechain compression. So what we do is we go over to the effects browser and we type in, and we'll just use the compressor that's built in with Reaper, and we're going to drag that onto the music bed. Remember, a compressor turns things down. It turns down the loudest part, so it turns things down. And what we're going to do is we're going to tell Reaper that the vocal chain, the vocal track, is what's going to control how we turn down the music bed. So we create what is called a route or a send from the vocal track, and I'm just going to click on this route button and drag it, and you see it creates like a little audio jack, and we're going to plug that in to the route. Now, what we do here is we take a send from audio tracks 1 and 2, and we're going to send it to new channels on the receiving track, and that's typically called 3 and 4. So 1 and 2 get sent to 3 and 4 on the receiving track. Now, I'm going through this very quickly. What I'll do is I'll add a link in the description to Kenny Joya's Reaper Mania, where he has a really great tutorial on sidechain compression, and he'll walk you through every single setting. I'm just giving you the basics on how you would do it here. So then we go back to our compressor and we say that we're going to use the detector input of that auxiliary input, that auxiliary left and right from the vocal track. And what we should see is that
with a Mitsubishi Electric Zone Comfort solution, you can create multiple shades of comfort for any personality in your home. For instance,
we can see that the compressor is compressing down the music bed for as the voice gets louder, the music bed gets quieter, and then as the voice gets quieter, the music bed gets louder. So everything stays sort of nice and even. And you can adjust the threshold and the attack and the release and the pre-compression. And Kenny's video will show you all of that stuff. So we'll just I'm just going to make a couple of settings here, and we'll do a test.
With a Mitsubishi Electric Zone Comfort solution, you can create multiple shades of comfort for any personality in your home. For instance, a zone when you want to keep it really cool, another zone that's pretty cool, or a zone that's not cool at all. Please, don't handle...
Okay, so we have a good preliminary take at it. Now what we'll do is we need to tighten this up. So we need to tighten up the audio so it moves nice and quickly. There aren't a lot of breaks because we don't want anybody getting bored while they're listening to our demo. So let's just make sure that everything is nice and tight. So we'll make sure that the audio starts
with a Mitsubishi
right at the right moment.
With a Mitsubishi Electric Zone.
Great. So there's a little bit of a pause here. A little bit
for instance.
So we'll add a couple of splits. And we'll make sure our ripple editing is on a by track basis right here. Make sure that it's got the single track. And we're just going
to, for instance, a zone.
Tighten that up.
Really cool. Another zone.
Because we only have 59 seconds worth of audio, so we need to make sure it's nice and tight. We're going to need to make sure that all of this is nice and tight. So let's just take one more listen.
With a Mitsubishi Electric Zone Comfort solution, you can create multiple shades of comfort for any personality in your home. For instance, a zone when you want to keep it really cool, another zone that's pretty cool, or a a zone that's not cool at all.
Please, don't handle the science fiction collectible.
Okay, so that's a good first start. We might need to still mess a little bit with the music bed, but that's essentially the process. We are going to put a vocal track, and then we're going to add some additional, we're going to add the music bed underneath it, our Audioblocks music bed. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go and drag some more in, and you'll watch me work, but I'll accelerate through it until we come to another point where it makes sense to talk about what we're doing. Okay, so now we've got our second one added in, and the thing I want to show you here is the transition. So you can just crossfade as you drag between these two. You can just crossfade, and that helps with the transition, so it's not quite a jarring transition from one clip to the next, and that's just by crossfading, dragging them on top of each other. That will help prevent a click and smooth out the transition between the two.
Don't handle the science fiction collectible.
At TA and Petro, we know time is not always on your...
So you can hear the two ads, and they're two different types of delivery, the two different musics, but the crossfade helps marry those two together. So now in this case, what I'm doing is I'm adding some sound effects. Maybe we'll not have a music bed under this one, just to create a little variation, a little switch. This one's got sort of a funny voice to it. So to switch up from the two kind of serious ones that we've done before, we've now got a silly voice to break up the monotony. No music, so we're just going to try and break it up. In this one, we'll just use a couple of the sound effects.
Hello, I am an official sounding scientist, and I'm here to attempt a comfort experiment. We're going to recreate the way your home's central air system works right here in your car. Crank up the air as high as it will go and put it on full blast in your face.
So we probably want that sound effect to be a little bit louder.
Crank up the air as high as it will go and put it on full blast in your face. Feels good at first, right?
Okay, so so now we've got a sound effect, so we're going to transition away from the music. We've got some sound effects, and now for the next clip, maybe we'll bring some music back in. Okay, so I've got my first draft here, but it's almost 2 minutes long. It's way too long. So the next thing I have to do is I sort of have to just ruthlessly edit this down till it gets down to 1 minute. And that's going to make it feel tight. It's going to be hard to make certain decisions about the parts that I want to cut out and what I need to do, but that's what you got to do. You got to really get this nice and tight. So this is where your ripple editing by track and by all tracks, you're going to have to really just mess around with the editing and just get it as tight as you can. You're going to be looking for every last second without ruining the delivery. You have to try and just make some really tough decisions about whittling it down. So that's what I'm going to do now, and I'm going to see if I can get it down to 1 minute. I have to cut this in half based on what I have here. And I've already cut the ads way down, so I still need to cut them down a little bit more. So here's one of those decision points. So the funny voice ad is 18 seconds. And really, for the funny voice, it should be much shorter. So I'm just going to have to just cut a bunch of this out, and hopefully it will still make sense. So I think I'm going to cut.
Comfort experiment. We're going to recreate the way your home's central air system works
Just
right here.
Goes on and on. So I'm going to just try and cut this middle section out. And just try and edit this until The sound effects are still there because I like the sound effects. I want the sound effects to be there. But I need to make it as tight as I can make it. So even see some of these gaps. I'm going to take these gaps out.
Hello, I am an official sounding scientist, and I'm here to attempt a comfort experiment. Crank up the air as high as it will go and put it on full blast in your face. Feels...
So maybe I'll just take that much. So now it's 9 seconds. That's a little bit better. We may still need to cut it up a little bit more, but we'll keep going. Okay, so as you can see, I'm making some tough decisions, cutting out some big chunks, trying to collapse everything down, and I've gotten 39 seconds out of it. But I still have another 21 seconds I've got to get out of this demo, and to get it down to the 59 seconds. So round 2. The most important one is the one in the beginning. So I'm trying to keep that one as intact as I can, and maybe do a little bit more editing on the later ones, because fewer and fewer casting directors, the later it will get into the demo, the fewer people that are going to last. I want to try and keep my best ones as perfect in the beginning, my good long clip in the beginning that really showcases sort of my natural voice. So that's why I'm going to try and keep the one in the beginning as intact as I can and make some harder edits as we go along. Okay, round 2 of editing is done. We've got another 10 seconds out, so I still have 9 seconds that I've got to cut out of this. All right, we're there. 59 and 998 one-thousandths of a second. So we're right there. We're 59 seconds, which is just where we want to be. Okay, so what we're going to do here is we're going to add a little bit of mastering to it to just try and make sure that the whole thing sounds cohesive at the end. And this is very subtle. This is just to try and smooth out any rough spots in the mastering thing. So mastering is at the final end of it to just try and capture, to just try and clean up everything. So if we're making significant changes, that means we need to fix things back in our edit. I usually add 3 effects to mastering. The first thing that I add is EQ. So we just add the EQ, and it's actually really similar to my typical mic EQ. The first thing I do is I roll off everything below like 40 or 50 hertz. That way, in case there's any weird plosives, there's any rumble that exists, we just roll all of that off. It's going to make it sound nice. The next thing I do is right in the mid bass, right in my voice, I take a little tiny bit out. Now, I've already taken some out in the mic EQ. I'm just going to take it out here also in case there's any competition with the music bed between my voice. I just duck it down just a little tiny bit, and that's just a general demudding that I find pleasant and usually pretty effective. And usually that's it. That's all I do. So we'll move on to the next one. The next one is I add compression. So the compressor, we remember, turns down the loudest parts. So what this is going to do is this is just going to equalize. If there are some clips that are louder and some clips that are quieter in this, the compressor is going to turn down those loudest ones just so it's all nice and in a row. And this is actually, we keep it pretty simple here too. So we just keep these settings actually pretty good as a first try. You might listen to it, and if you look at your waveform and you see things moving around, then you would go back and you would adjust your compression settings. Then the last thing is I want to then raise the volume of the whole thing to be just, as loud as it can be so that nobody has to turn my demo up, right? Because louder sounds better. So I add a limiter to it. So I'm just going to add the master limiter. And this is one that we'll actually listen to. So the first thing we do is there's two sliders that we need to worry about here. The first is a threshold and then the limit. The limit is how loud will the final result be? And I'm going to put it right almost up to 0. So like a half or a third of a dB. Let's do a half a dB below clipping. And then we just hit play. And then we start to listen to when we'll move the threshold slider until it's loud enough. And if we hear it distorting or clipping or sounding weird, then we'll back it off a little bit. So we'll just start at 0 and then we'll move through it.
Solution, you can create multiple shades of comfort for any personality.
And what we're doing is we're watching these two meters. So this the initial meter, the premix meter, and the threshold, the after one, will stop it from clipping, but it should be really close to the top.
Solution, you can create multiple shades of comfort for any personality in your home. For instance, a zone when you want to keep it really cool, another zone that's pretty cool, or a zone that's not cool at all.
Please, don't.
That sounds like if I go up to 8 or 9, that sounds starting to sound a little messy. So it looks like
solution, you can create multiple shades of comfort for any person. Basis. Picture this. You and a friend fly first class and give back to the families who accept to Eaton Park's famous soup, salad, and fruit bar.
Okay, between 6 and 7, that sounds about right. So then that only happens after all of our initial edits are done, and then it turns into the output, and that will do the mastering. So it all happens at once. So now we'll render it, and we'll take a listen. Now we can see here from our nice stereo waveform that everything it's not peaking, it's not clipping. It's got some little bit of dynamics to it. There's a little section, that's that quiet section, that sort of that emotional down one. We have that one down a little bit more. But it's got a nice, full, robust waveform without clipping, without being over the top. So we'll open this up in an audio player, and then we'll see how it sounds.
With a Mitsubishi Electric Zone Comfort solution, you can create multiple shades of comfort for any personality in your home. For instance, a zone when you want to keep it really cool, another zone that's pretty cool, or a zone that's not cool at all.
Please, don't handle the science fiction collectibles.
At TA and Petro, we know time is not always on your side. That's why we make it ultra convenient to grab and go when you're in a pinch.
Hello, I am an official sounding scientist. Crank up the air as high as it will go and put it on full blast in your face.
I remember when I turned 14 and my parents let me paint my room. My bedroom must have changed color on a yearly basis. Picture this. You and a friend fly first class to Vegas. Then you go to the iHeartRadio Music Festival. Named for the police radio code 1033, the Utah 1033 Foundation is honored to provide financial support and give back to the families who accept great risks so that we may have safer communities. Welcome to Eaton Park's famous soup, salad, and fruit bar, where a delicious meal is whatever you want to make of it.
That actually sounds, for a first pass, I'm real happy with the way that sounds. And that's pretty much the whole process. Pick your clips, get them in the right order, get the music bed under it, and try and create some variation between the delivery, the sound, the emotional content to just try and display your range. Adding in those nice audio, those royalty-free audio from Audioblocks, you can really create, and a little practice, you can create a really good demo that will help you get the gigs. So I hope this helps. Now, go record a bunch of stuff, make a demo so that you can record something amazing.